Welcome back, everyone, to Planet MicroCap. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and joining me today is Darren Mercer. He is the CEO of MICT Inc. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is MICT on NASDAQ. Darren, thank you for joining me today. How you doing, man?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. So this is actually our first time doing an interview together, and I know the company's, we're recording this on a Wednesday, November 16th. The company's put out a couple bits of news in the last couple of days here, but before we get into all of that, can you give us that quick overview and history of the company?
Sure. I mean, MICT has been listed on NASDAQ for, I don't know, 10 years, I think. My involvement goes back about 3 when I joined as non-executive director, and then more recently as chief executive for the last 2.5 years or so. During that time, we have seen a transition away from being a business aimed in the telematics space to a fintech solution platform provider. And we have also launched into new territories. China, where we launched an insurance platform, which started trading just a little under 2 years ago, and has grown significantly. In fact, we just reported our best numbers around the revenue growth in Q3 a couple of days ago, with perhaps what was striking for me was the improvement in margin. And together with a stock trading business licensed in Hong Kong, now Singapore, and we're looking at alternative jurisdictions as well for further licenses. That business is one that supports that was actually after retail. Online trading, it's actually switched its model to become more broker as a service. And I think, as I said in the results, we are in very late stage detailed discussions with a number of parties, any of which would add significant revenue at high margin to that particular business. And that was how we were until recently, when we made the acquisition of a company called Tingo, and that expanded our fintech range to include Agri-fintech. It's a very exciting business, a company that dominates in parts of Africa in which it operates, and that's added a great deal of profitability and revenues to the group, and also provided the platform for what we hope is significant globalization of that particular business.
Absolutely. So thank you for that full overview, and you went through some of the news items already just now. But again, for those that may have missed recent conference call or again haven't heard of the company, what would you say makes MICT unique and different compared to some of your peers out there?
Well, I think with the Tingo addition to the group, I think we're different from many, many companies that I know, say one NASDAQ listed company called Pinduoduo, which is doing something similar in China. It's a huge company, a $90 billion market cap company. What makes us unique, I think, is we always talk about financial inclusion in all of the platforms that we try to launch. And it's really a key message and at the heart of the ethos of who we are. And I think that the Tingo inclusion really exemplifies that. And what that is now doing is re-engaging, or just engaging for the first time through inclusion of elements of society, usually those below the poverty line, to bring financial instruments and facilities to parts of the world and parts of various communities which have never had access to that. And now what we're doing with Tingo is using that to benefit everybody by increasing food production as a result. I can talk about this more, increasing food production, which is then going a long way to satisfying the very important and very topical need of food security, particularly given since the Ukraine-Russian war.
Absolutely. So one more question, on your exposure to some of these geopolitical areas. I'm sure you probably get this asked all the time, working in China, Africa, all these different places. Can you tell us a little bit about whether or not there is some geopolitical risk and how the company is trying to mitigate any of those potential risks?
I think that's a really fair question. From my perspective, I think let's deal with them each in turn. With China, I mean, I was very encouraged when I saw the results of President Biden's meeting with President Xi Jinping yesterday, avoiding any hopeful possibility of a Cold War. And I can only hope that that's conversations which have taken place between those two huge superpowers over the last number of weeks. And that gives us some more encouragement. I think one of the things in China is, given how slow its economy has been, it's pretty critical for it for foreign investment right now. And that gives me a great deal of comfort. One of the many lessons I have learned from being in China over the last 15 or so years is that the Chinese act on a generation. Everything they do is a generational play. It's not a thought process over a cup of coffee or over a weekend. It's over a generation. I think they recognize themselves the importance of relationships with the rest of the international community, if not least for its own trading capabilities. And so I'm hoping that I'm pretty comfortable with that personally. With regard to parts of Africa, again, and the secret with what we do wherever we go is to ensure that, and this is very evident with the Tingo business in Africa and to some extent in China itself, is that we work with those authorities whose interests we believe that we enhance as a result of our presence and our investment.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Darren, to close us out here today, from what you can tell us, after this recent acquisition, what would you then say are some of the company's value catalysts for the rest of this year, now going into 2023, that you want folks to pay attention to?
Sure, that's a very good question. MICT has gone with this transaction from being a business that was on the road back towards break even on trading perspective to one that becomes immediately very, very profitable. Tingo reported its numbers on Monday, in which it did in Q3 circa $290 million US dollars of revenue, with a profit before tax of around $161 million. We expect their performance to improve in Q4, and we expect significant improvement throughout 2023 and beyond, with significant increases in growth in both revenue and profitability. Our deal with Tingo is consummated on November 30th, which means we get a whole month of inclusion of some of those numbers on a consolidated basis and 100% consolidated basis annually from there on. So 2023 will be what we believe, and I think I said it in my statement, there is a huge disconnect between the level of profitability of Tingo, which has a run rate on their Q3 numbers approaching $650 million a year, and our market cap. Our market cap today, even at 88, 89 cents, is circa $110 million. And the board, as I said in my statement, will look at a number of options available to it to hopefully get greater reflection of the true value of MICT and its share price.
Very good. Well, Darren, with that, thank you so much for joining me. Where can our audience go and find more information on MICT?
Well, we're NASDAQ listed. I'm sure it's readily available with our stock exchange and NASDAQ filings. And one of the other messages we're now trying to do as we conclude and as we come to the consummated part of the transaction, which has taken some time, is that we've appointed a new investment bank, Haitong, and so hopefully we'll have a channel to keep the shareholders better informed through research and other such periodicals.
And by the way, so for everyone listening and watching, that website is mict-inc.com. Darren, thank you so much for joining me again. Really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. I look forward to our next update.
God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.